It'll be on my gravestone next
I'm going.
right? Five, count you in yet? 5, 4.
Paul has cold skews. I'm sure you'd love him available for Sunday.
Yeah, in all honesty, he hasn't trained with the group as yet. He was out on the training pitch, and I was just saying, when we spoke last week, I would have expected that he would have trained today. So I haven't been told he's not available. You know, I think the plan is still to get him out there on Friday and have a look, but it's, you know, not as definite as I probably thought it would be. But last week when we spoke, but I think we certainly want a player of his experience and ability available to us, you know, for such a big game. So
I guess the extra day's rest, with it being on a Sunday, could be ever so helpful. Would you give him till Sunday morning, worst case scenario?
Maybe we'll have to see how the rest of the lads are and how we're fixed. But you know, we want to try and do your work and your preparation, sort of certainly Friday, Saturday, ahead of the game, and I guess there's ways around that. You can still be out there and looking and listening to the messages, but it'd be a big call if we just had all we had to go on was basically saying he's all right on Sunday, and what I wouldn't want to do is lose him for, you know, a longer period if we felt that was, you know, a big risk to do that.
Everyone else okay in terms of fitness?
Yeah, Teddy's had to drop out of training today. He took a bang the other day. He took a couple, in fairness, but I think it was his ribs, so he's not completed training today. Everyone else has trained and should be ready to go.
Is it a tricky one in terms of your back four, or do you just plan for Toto being available? I mean, you must be confident that he's going to be.
I wouldn't say confident. I know what should happen, but I'm not. Whether it does or not is a different matter. So again, I think we should find out today, but I'm led to believe. I certainly hope so. You know, I think it's only right that you should know as early as possible. It can't take that long to make a decision whichever way. So hopefully we'll find out, and then, you know, you can prepare. I haven't given sort of the team, you know, too much thought, because things happen, you know, during the week sometimes, and certainly yesterday was just getting them going again, and today we've done more 11v11, but more just simply about us rather than you know, taking the opposition into account.
What do you like about Jordan Graham? Has he been on the radar for a little while?
Yeah, he was on the list that we first compiled, and you know, for maybe a couple of reasons it wasn't doable initially, but I think we've spent quite a bit of as post-match interviews talking about sort of a little bit of quality in the final third, perhaps just being missing, or you know, haven't picked the right pass, or you know, put in a good enough delivery. I think he certainly fits that bill. Now, what I would say is he hasn't played at this level for a while, so we've got to, you know, try and get him up to speed quickly, and you know, make sure that he's feels part of the group, understands his role, what's asked of him. But there's no doubt, certainly when he broke onto the scene and had that spell where he was, I think, much sought after, and a lot of eyes will have been on him to take that jump away from Wolves. So, you know, we'd be looking for him to try and reproduce that form, and if we can, then we've certainly got a player on his hands.
Would Sunday be a bit too soon for him, all things considered? Might it be a bit unfair on the lad, or does he look ready to go?
Possibly. He has trained the last 2 days. You know, I think again he's got to get used to the way that we are and what we want. So we'll make a call on that later in the week. But he's in consideration. You know, I'm not saying that it'll be sort of 3 or 4 weeks till we see him. Like I say, it's a big game to go into. If you play him and it doesn't work out, then you know that's a bad decision. If you play him and it works out, it's a great decision. Hopefully, whatever I decide, it'll be deemed the latter.
Confident others will arrive before Friday as well, the latest transfer window closing?
Hope so. You know, I've made no secret of it, and thankfully next week when we speak, we can be talking about something different rather than ins and outs.
St Johnstone looks a good move for Tristan Nydan.
I hope so for him. He's a player that I think a lot of. A very young lad that should have a long career in the game. Burst onto the scene last year really, and played probably more than you would have thought someone that age would have done. Maybe a little bit of circumstances dictated that as well, but has worked hard pre-season. But with the midfield players that we've got and have been brought in, I didn't want to stop his progress by him just playing 23s football, which although he's still quite a way under that age, didn't feel that would be the best way forward for him. And in fairness to Tristan, I liked his attitude about it when we spoke, and he wants to go and play and competitive football, and St Johnstone isn't on the doorstep, so credit to the young man for wanting to do that, and hope that he can go up there, get lots of minutes under his belt and really progress.
First month of the season out of the way, has Marcus been in touch to see how you're getting on?
We're always in touch, and that's genuine. He's, what I wouldn't say we don't. I think only once been able to sit in a room and kind of look him in the eyes, but I'll let you see my phone bills, and you can see that we're in touch often. Certainly, during these times in bringing players in, a lot of conversations, and we speak after every game. So, there's certainly no lack of contact there.
And he understands it's a long-term project, doesn't he? That there might be a few bumps on the road.
I hope so. Again, he's the man who will make any decisions on my future and on the football club's future. But I think we're all realistic about what was set out, and there has been a lot of change asked. It's unusual if you can make that all come together instantly, and certainly in terms of results it hasn't, but I've been happy with a lot of other things at the football club that have happened quite quickly. We just need results to back all of that up, because again I'm fully aware results are the most important thing in football, and there was a call to perhaps change how the football club was sort of going, what direction, and do you stick with that, or do you think, oh no, we haven't quite got the results, let's go back to the way it was? And I think if you are going to opt to try and change things, you should try to give it a little bit of time.
How big is this game on Sunday?
I understand it's massive for the fans. It's big for us all. Fortunately, no more than 3 points at stake. But I know that fans love the football club, and take it to heart each time we don't get the result we want. This game in particular, because of the bragging rights attached to it, the local rivals, and in a lot of ways I think this is almost a bigger game for the fans than anyone, because of that rivalry that's been there for many years, whether it's me sat here, Mick sat here, Jim Agilton, many managers before that. So we want to be able to send them home happy, which hasn't happened too often in these games, partly because of being in different leagues, and then also not coming out the right side of results when we faced Norwich.
Can you treat it like any other game? You mentioned the fact it's just 3 points, like Sheffield Wednesday was, like Hull will be in a couple of weeks.
You have to in a lot of ways, but what, again, we just spoke about is the balance of making sure people are revved up. I think the players have been anyway. There might be some people out there saying they're too revved up when we've had 2 players sent off in the last 2 weekends, albeit I'm not convinced that any of them should have been. But I always want my team to be competitive and up for a fight. We know that at derby days, that's got to be an absolute given, because if not, the opposition will get on top of you. So we have to be ready for what Norwich will bring, but also be fully prepared to try and take our game to Norwich and make sure that they're ready to stand up to that. So I'll be asking for, you know, high energy. That's what derbies are about. And the atmosphere, the players feed off of that. But at the same time, not getting taken away from what the job is, which is still to try and play with some element of composure when it's there. But I would be very surprised if certainly the first 10-15 minutes at least isn't frantic and kind of not overly too much football played, but lots of noise in the ground. And like I said, it's kind of using that to inspire you, but not letting it take away from what is, you know, the basics of performing. And hopefully then you get the result you want.
How do you feel about being involved in one of these games for the first time?
Excited, really looking forward to it. Right from the start, it was one of the fixtures that you're really looking out for, and we haven't had to wait too long for it. Start of a new month for us. We'll hopefully see a change in fortunes in terms of the results, and really looking forward to walking down that tunnel. I think even before that, I think when it's a derby game, you just get that sense, you know, sort of as you drive to the ground and almost get a feel just outside the stadium of how much it means to people. But then certainly when you walk down the tunnel and up to the dugout, you know, I'm really looking forward to experiencing that.
Both sets of fans are probably saying we can't afford to lose this game heading into the break. You must get that sentiment.
Yeah, no one wants to lose it anyway, whether we were both, you know, sat first or second in the league, never mind kind of where certainly we are, and Norwich probably would have liked to have had a few more points on the board themselves. So I think the fact there is a break, you know, it's bad enough if you have to wait a few days, you know, never mind a couple of weeks for that next game. So that adds to it as well. But ultimately, whatever does happen, there is still 40 games left in the league season. It's a hell of a long way. It is early days. But if we were going to only be able to win one of the first 6, which is how it would pan out, I think everyone would have picked this one, albeit I'd have rather have won more than one. And you know, we haven't done that as yet, but we'll be striving to do so.
And just finally, I'm guessing they're hard to plan for, are they? There would have been a little point in you going to Cardiff midweek, but then I guess if you look at the Leeds side, they lost 3-0, so you're not quite sure what Daniel's plans could possibly be.
No, you know, we've watched them as you would. A couple of lads came in certainly last night and had positive appearances. Like you said, the Leeds game, I have to say, while it was 0-0, they more than held their own, and the goal changed. Looked as though it changed the game, and the confidence in one team that you saw come out, and perhaps a lack of confidence in the other played out slightly. But at the minute, I know Leeds, I just mentioned last night, but at the minute they're arguably the team I think that most people are speaking about. So maybe no disgrace in that defeat, but it does pose a little bit of a question in my mind in terms of who will perhaps be selected to put on that shirt at the weekend.
Thanks, Paul.
Johnny?
Paul, is it about the more composed team who will win on Tuesday?
Not just that, because you know you could go out there with composure, but then forget to do the ugly side of the game. You know, we've got to be up for the game, and I'm confident that the players will be. But then, you know, within that, you can't just sort of charge around the pitch, you know, like headless chickens, and then not have any quality. And again, even as I spoke about the first 15 minutes perhaps before, I've seen many a derby games, I'm sure you all have, where you get to the end of the game and you think, that was just a battle. And if that's what it takes to win the game, then I'm more than happy with that. But I think there will certainly be moments where we have to try and show an element of composure, added to, you know, a sheer desire and physical effort along the way.
You've spoken about your desire to take part in this game, about the players that you've got virtually changed squad as well. I mean, have you impressed on them how important this game is?
Not yet. I don't want to build, I want them, I think they're aware, as in even from sort of last weekend, they then know what the next game is. But overall, I don't want it to be kind of just on their minds and almost draining them as we go through the week. I've had this before. Whenever you're going into a big game, I think in general you just try and let things bubble along and not build it up too much until you're almost at the event. Because as I said, you can quite easily get caught up in it. I think from a fan's point of view, that's great. The banter can start, and probably started when the fixtures came out, and they'll be at each other, but they don't have to then go out and run around for 90 or 95 minutes, whatever it is on the day. So we've kind of kept that quite low key at the minute, but trust me, without me saying anything, it won't be lost on the players, and I'm sure people like Luke Chambers, Cole Scholes will be, making that be known to the rest of the group as we get closer to kick off.
I mean, in terms of progress generally, are you that far away? Do you think you're that far away from getting it right?
No, I don't believe so. I think if you look at each game we've played, there's hardly been anything in it, really. Certainly score lines. Derby, we spoke about maybe that second goal really killing that game off. But every game we've been more than in, and it's, it kind of frustrates me, but it is fine margins, and many people have said that to me. We, again, maybe a little bit made about goal score and opportunities. A lot of the stats that I'm getting match up with a lot of other teams, and certainly the opposition that we're facing. For me, it's more about keeping the ball out of the net. We haven't kept a clean sheet. Now, that makes it more difficult to win a game of football. I've been, again, used to having teams that have nearly always had one of, if not the best, defensive record in the league. And if we carry on as we are, we're not going to have that. And yes, we could argue, but you're playing better opposition, things like that. Well, it's still, we're in a league, and that's our league. We've got to stop giving soft goals away. And if we do that, if we win games 1-0, you still get 3 points. We'd all love to win 5 and 6-0. It doesn't happen very often. So a lot of it, I'm to be honest, more focused about that side than worrying about anything else. Thank you.
On that sort of note, Norwich-wise, they look pretty potent going forward, but at the same time, maybe the same way you look at things, they've also always looked like they're going to let a goal in the other end as well.
Yeah, I think sometimes that's can be our team to set up. Some managers might be happy to win 4-3 every week. That's never been my sort of way, and it's not about being boring. But a lot of the goals we've conceded, we mentioned set plays. Some have been individual errors, some have been second phase, perhaps a little bit unlucky, one or two things. But it might be easy saying it, but they don't go in. We'd be certainly talking about different results. We've had a couple of decisions go against us that no one would have wanted to have happened, and I think have been extremely harsh. But Norwich will have their idea about what perhaps their weaknesses are at this moment in time, and what they need to put right themselves. Clearly for me, it's very much Ipswich Town and what we've got to get better at.
And there's a man on the board there, academy graduates, Jordan Rhodes, obviously got history with this place. Would you make of that coming up against him? Obviously, it's a story, isn't it, of someone from Ipswich maybe going against their old club.
Yeah, it came out from a team, I guess, that we played last weekend, and my boyhood team, and it hasn't quite worked out for Jordan of late. But one thing 100% we know is he's a goal scorer. So if he's in that starting lineup at the weekend, we need to be on his guard, and when the ball's being crossed in the box, he's going to be on the move and finding little bits of space. He's that he might not have scored as many goals as he would have liked recently, but I don't think you lose that knack of getting into areas or whatever. It's just not quite happening for him at the moment, but he's someone we'll be fully aware of. Like you said, there is an easy story there to write. I'm hoping that you're not putting those column inches together.
So, man, good luck.
Thank you.
Given the situation at the moment, is this an ideal game to have now, or is it one you'd rather have a little further down the line?
I could probably answer that about 3 o'clock or whatever it is on Sunday. But no, I think it's a game that we've got to look forward to and embrace, and however we perform, we've got to try and come out the right side of the result. I've said performances certainly haven't been really poor or anything like that, but they haven't yielded a points total. I'm ready for, if we're awful, to get 3 points. Long term that won't do us any good, but I think just for everyone's sake, and the fact a local derby, and I don't think any fan will care as long as we come out the right side of the result. So it has been mentioned it's a good game for us. Norwich are perhaps thinking the same as well.
You must have experienced some big derby days, Sheffield derbies, games with Rotherham at your former clubs, but what are you expecting from the atmosphere from this one?
A lot. I mean, I think as a manager, certainly this is. I've had something that people might not think it's that big, but Grimsby-Lincoln was certainly a big game. There was a real sort of hatred there, honestly, with the fans. Shrewsbury was a little bit different because of distances, but this is the biggest game by some distance, in terms of numbers, the fans that will be there, and people have said that it can, it is quite sort of, well, they're not the best of friends, let's put it that way. So I'm looking forward to that. You don't want anything off the field, anything silly like that, but in the ground, you want 2 sets of passionate supporters. Straight away, I think everyone feels, certainly at the beginning of the game at least, it's like, yeah, it gets you up for the game, and the players are no different. Like I said, they've got to control that, but at the same time use that atmosphere to give them that energy that's going to be required to compete in this sort of game.
Do you do anything different in terms of preparation, like overnight stay on Saturday, anything like that?
No, we looked at that with it being an early kick-off, but we're at home, and that, I have to say, I think just from a personal point of view, not just from a personal point of view, but if you can sleep in your own bed, that's where I think we'd choose to. So it'll just be a case of getting up nice and early and getting into the ground and making sure that we're wide awake, ready for that kick-off.
Before we even get there, there's obviously another transfer deadline. Are you expecting these to go all the way to 5 p.m. on Friday, or is there tied up earlier?
I'd rather not. At least we won't have to be up till 11 o'clock. Not that it's that late, although of late it does seem I'm getting a little bit tired before that time. No, I think in an ideal world we'd be sorted before then, but again, it'd be wrong for me to say it will be, definitely. We'll have to wait and see, but certainly hopeful of getting a couple in before then.
There's a defender at Blackpool we've mentioned many times over many weeks. Is that one that you still hopefully pursuing?
I would have liked, but I have to say I think that's looking very unlikely.
In terms of loans out, are there any more youngsters that you think might benefit and get out before Friday?
Possibly not. Again, there's a couple, depending on what we do, but the issue is we're getting, closer to that deadline, and what I'm certainly not prepared to do is let people just go out when we've got to look after ourselves first and foremost, and if that means having a couple of extra bodies in the end, I'd rather it be that way than feel like, we're a little bit short. So possible outs, but again, maybe depending on what business we do first.
Best of luck Sunday.
Thank you.
So you had quite a few conversations this week with fans coming up to you and saying you've got to win Sunday, that kind of thing?
A few. I was even just having a little run around first thing this morning, and one of the ground staff made me aware that he was a Ipswich Town fan since he was a little boy, and said, "Do you understand the importance of the game?" And I think if you're in football, you might not have to be from the area. You just know derby days are special, and like I said, what it means to fans. So I'm fully aware of that, and again, it'd be a great fixture to get that first victory. Doesn't mean that you forget everything that's been and gone, or everything's right moving forward, but it would certainly give everyone a big lift, ahead of what is, you know, an international break coming up.
And Jordan Graham, he's obviously had a lot of injury problems. Do you feel it's a sort of risky signing to some degree?
I think there's an element, if he'd have played, you know, for the last year or so, we might not even be in a position to be able to get him, because as I mentioned before, at one stage he was, you know, let's not forget where he went on loan last year. He went to a team that's got promoted to the championship, to the Premiership. Now it didn't work out there. Again, I think there's reasons, pretty obvious reasons, perhaps why. A lot of things you do are a gamble to a degree, because it could be someone that's you know, fit all the time, could come here and they just suffer an injury. They could move to the area, not feel settled, so don't perform to the standard that you want. So I take your point, but I think there's an element of risk with most things that we do. I'm just hoping, as I said before, that we can get him back to something like the form that he showed, because he was certainly a thorn in defence's side and created a lot of chances for his teammates when he was flying in at the top of his game.
And Cameron Jerome has been mentioned as a player that you're interested in, but isn't going to happen, I think. But is it that sort of experienced striker that you're?
We're looking at a sort of someone who's got a physical presence, certainly, and if possible, the experience alongside that. But at the same time, what you want in an ideal world and what you can actually get don't always come together. So we'll see if we can make something like that sort of deal happen.
So there was serious interest in Jerome?
It was one that we've inquired about, certainly, yeah.
And Luke Wolfen, I think we were quite surprised to see him in the under-23s on Monday. Back much quicker than...
Yeah, I have to say, you know, I think credit to the medical staff and also credit to the player himself. He made a speedier recovery than we first thought or feared. You know, what I don't mind saying, he's one that we've had quite a bit of interest in on the loan front. But again, as we stand, I'm sure you'd all agree, it'd be foolish to let someone like that out if we haven't got another defender in the building with us. But you know, I think it was pleasing to see him out there, especially when we thought it might have been another sort of 3 weeks or so. So he's a young lad. Hopefully he doesn't get injured anyway. But if he does, that he shows that he's quite a quick heel.
So he'll presumably be in the squad or in the running for the squad for Sunday?
Possibly. You know, depending on obviously what happens over the next days with Toto's appeal and any ins or outs that happen, yeah.
And Emir and Andre both played on Monday
Yeah.
as well. Are they ready for inclusion yet?
Andre, no, definitely not. Emir, not really, in truth. I'd love him to be, but it was a big step forward. There's no doubt. Get him Teddy, Danny, getting 90 minutes. I think they felt it, but at the same time that's natural. You know, you should feel it, or either that or you've just been walking around for 90 minutes, which isn't the point of the game. So he's certainly, you know, moving closer. He's one. Could we involve him? Not from the start. You know, whether or not I look at him and feel he could contribute at some point. Like I said before, I haven't given it too much thought. We kind of not long finished training, done 11v11. So again, that's more sort of, alright, it's not a game, but it's more minutes in that sort of environment for him. And I think that we, you know, part of the reason for doing that was with some of the players. We feel that they need that to either build on the fitness they've got or get back to where we need them to be.
And Danny obviously was slightly ahead of Emir, wasn't he? Was he got
Yeah.
a chance of being involved in it?
Well, he's played longer. He played longer in the first game and managed the 90 again the other day. Although he went into the game feeling ill, and I don't know. It just feels with these lads at the minute. There's always sort of something that just trying to get in the way and stop them really sort of kicking on. But no, he got through it and he's trained today and trained pretty well.
All right, lads.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.